I thought I had it all. A beautiful wife, two amazing kids, and a high-profile career protecting America from cyber threats. But when I returned home from a mission to find half the closet empty and a cold note on the kitchen counter, my perfect life crumbled overnight. What I discovered next about my wife's betrayal would change everything. And 3 years later, when she saw me at that corporate gala, her tears revealed the truth we'd both been hiding. My name is Warren Cooper, and I'm 45 years old. 3 years ago, I lost everything I thought defined me. My wife, my children, my home. But let me start from the beginning. I'd spent 15 years building my reputation as one of the top cybersecurity consultants on the East Coast. The government contracts, the late-night calls from corporations under attack, the emergency flights to compromised facilities. I thrived on that rush. The feeling of being needed, of being the shield between chaos and order. My expertise in counter-cyberterrorism made me valuable, and that value translated into a comfortable life for my family in our Connecticut suburban home. Tessa was 35 when our world imploded. We'd met at a rehabilitation center where I was recovering from a shoulder injury after a particularly intense training session. She was the sports rehab specialist assigned to my case. Smart, passionate about helping athletes recover, and with a smile that could light up the darkest room. Our connection was immediate. 7 years and two beautiful children later, Shane, our energetic 4-year-old boy who inherited my stubborn streak, and little Tanya, just 2 and already wrapping me around her tiny finger. We had what everyone else saw as the perfect life. "Warren, can we talk?" Tessa asked one evening after the kids were finally asleep. I was reviewing security protocols on my laptop, my mind still caught in the labyrinth of code I'd been working through. "Give me 5 minutes to finish this section," I said without looking up, fingers still typing. "That's exactly the problem," Tessa replied, her voice uncommonly sharp. "It's always 5 more minutes, one more call, just one more emergency. I'm raising these kids practically alone." I finally looked up, noticing the tension in her shoulders, the tightness around her eyes. "That's not fair. I provide for this family. This new contract will set us up for years. Money isn't everything, Warren. Shane asked me yesterday why Daddy doesn't love us enough to be home." Those words hit me like a physical blow. "He said that? That's ridiculous. Is it? When was the last time you made it to bedtime stories? Or stayed for an entire dinner without your phone buzzing?" The argument escalated from there. Words were exchanged that couldn't be taken back. It wasn't our first fight about my work hours, but something felt different this time. There was a finality in Tessa's eyes I'd never seen before. I should have recognized it as the beginning of the end. Instead, I chalked it up to another rough patch we'd worked through. After all, we always had before. I had no idea that 3 weeks later, I'd returned from an emergency trip to find half the closet empty and a note that would shatter my world completely. The government cybersecurity conference in Washington had kept me away for 3 days. 3 days of briefings, warnings about new foreign threats, and strategizing with other consultants. I call home each night, brief conversations with Tessa that felt strained and mechanical. The kids had already been asleep, or at least that's what she told me. I pulled into our driveway at dusk, the setting sun casting long shadows across our 2-story colonial. Something fell off immediately. The house looked too still, too quiet. Shane's tricycle wasn't strewn across the front lawn, where he usually abandoned it. Tanya's favorite stuffed giraffe wasn't peering out from the window seat, where she always positioned it to wait for Daddy. My key turned in the lock, and I stepped into silence. "Tessa," I called out. "Kids, I'm home." Nothing. I moved through the house, room by room. In the kitchen, a single envelope sat propped against the coffee maker. My reliable morning companion that Tessa always joked was my true love. My name was written on it in her neat handwriting. My fingers trembled slightly as I tore it open and unfolded the single page inside. "Warren, I've taken the children to my sister's. We need space from you and this empty marriage. Don't try to call. I'll contact you when I'm ready. Tessa." I read it 3 times, convinced I was missing something. Was this a joke? A test? 23 words to end 7 years together? I grabbed my phone and called her immediately, ignoring her instruction. Straight to voicemail. I tried her sister Amy's number next. Also voicemail. I left messages on both, my voice strained with confusion and rising panic. When I went upstairs to our bedroom, the evidence of her departure was undeniable. Her closet stood half empty. The bathroom counter, normally cluttered with her creams and makeup, was bare on her side. In the kids' rooms, I found drawers partially emptied, favorite toys missing. They hadn't just stepped out. They had left. I sat on the edge of our king-sized bed, the note still clutched in my hand. What did she mean by empty marriage? We had a good life. Stability. A beautiful home. I provided well for them. Sure, we've been arguing more frequently lately, but all couples had rough patches, didn't they? I thought back to our most recent conversations. They had been brief, functional. When had we last laughed together? When had I last taken a full weekend off to be with them? I couldn't remember. My phone buzzed with a text from the office. Critical vulnerability detected in client's infrastructure. Need your expertise, ASAP. 2 weeks ago, I would have grabbed my laptop immediately. Tonight, I stared at the message as though it were written in a foreign language. The words meant nothing compared to the emptiness spreading through our home. I called Tessa again. Voicemail. I texted, "Please talk to me. What's going on? Are the kids okay?" No response. That night, I slept on Shane's dinosaur-themed bedsheets, surrounded by the toys he'd left behind. I breathed in the faint scent of the baby shampoo Tessa used on both kids, my mind racing through everything I might have missed, every warning sign I had ignored. By morning, I had one certainty. I would do whatever it took to understand what had happened and fix it. I had no idea then how impossible that task would be. 2 days of unanswered calls pushed me to my limit. I needed answers, not silence. I drove to Amy's suburban townhouse on the outskirts of Hartford, my knuckles white against the steering wheel. This wasn't just about Tessa and me anymore. Those were my children too. I spotted Tessa's SUV in the driveway immediately. At least I knew they were here. Taking a deep breath, I approached the door and knocked firmly, steeling myself for whatever came next. Amy answered, her expression hardening when she saw me. "She doesn't want to see you," she said flatly, blocking the doorway. "I'm not here to cause trouble, Amy," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "But those are my children in there, and I deserve more than a note." From inside, I heard Shane's excited voice. "Is that Daddy? Daddy?" The patter of little feet approached, and Amy's resolve visibly wavered. She stepped aside reluctantly as Shane barreled toward me. I crouched down, catching him in a fierce hug, breathing in his familiar scent. "Hey, buddy," I whisper, my voice thick. "I've missed you." "We're on vacation at Aunt Amy's," he announced, oblivious to the tension. "Tanya cried last night." Tessa appeared in the hallway, holding Tanya on her hip. Our daughter stretched her arms toward me, and my heart clenched. "Warren," Tessa acknowledged stiffly. "I said I'd contact you when I was ready." I stood, still holding Shane. "A note, Tessa. After 7 years together, I deserve a conversation, not a note." Amy intervened, taking Shane from me. "Let's go make cookies, sweetie. Your sister too." She extracted Tanya from Tessa's arms, giving us privacy. When the kids were out of earshot, Tessa's composed facade crumbled slightly. "What did you expect? That I'd wait around forever while you prioritized everything above your family?" "I was working for our family," I countered, keeping my voice level despite the anger bubbling beneath. "Everything I do is for you three." "No," she said firmly. "You work for yourself, Warren. For the rush, the recognition. We're just the backdrop to your important life." Her words stung because they contained a grain of truth. "But not the whole truth." "That's not fair," I said. "I've always provided for you, for the kids." "Providing isn't the same as being present." Tessa crossed her arms. "Do you know that Shane scored his first soccer goal last month? Or that Tanya has learned all her colors? Do you even know what their favorite foods are anymore?" Each question felt like a body blow. I knew the answers, or I thought I did. But doubt crept in, and Tessa saw it in my face. "See," she said softly, "that's why I left. You become a stranger to your own family." "Then give me a chance to fix it," I said, forcing confidence into my voice. "Don't just walk away." "It's not that simple, Warren." She looked away. "There's more to it than that." "Then explain it to me," I insisted, sensing she was holding something back. Before she could answer, my phone rang, the special tone assigned in national security emergencies. Tessa's expression hardened instantly. "And there it is," she said coldly. "Your real priority calling." I silenced the phone without looking at it. "This conversation matters more." For now, she replied. But for how long? A day? A week? Until the next crisis pulls you away. She sighed heavily. I need time to think, Warren. We both do. I wanted to argue, to make her understand, but I recognized the determination in her eyes. Pushing harder now would only drive her further away. Can I at least say goodbye to the kids? I asked. She nodded, softening slightly. Of course. They miss you. As I walked toward the kitchen, I resolved that whatever was happening between Tessa and me, I would fight like hell to remain a father to my children. That much wasn't negotiable. A week after my confrontation with Tessa, I found myself in a downtown Hartford bar with my old college roommate, Mike. We kept in touch over the years, though our lives had taken different paths. He became a detective with the Hartford PD, while I chased digital terrorists. So she just left. No warning. Mike asked, nursing his scotch. I swirled the ice in my glass. There were warnings. I just missed them. Marriages hit rough patches, Warren. Doesn't mean you pack up the kids and disappear. I shrugged. She says I was absent. Physically there, but mentally gone. Mike leaned forward. And you believe that's all it is? Something in his tone made me pause. What do you mean? He hesitated, then pulled out his phone. I didn't want to do this, but you're my friend, and you deserve to know. He swiped through a few screens, then slid the phone across the table. A buddy in surveillance sent me this. They were installing new systems at Hartford Medical Center 3 months ago. The grainy security image showed the hospital parking garage. I recognized Tessa immediately, standing close to a tall man in scrubs. Too close. As I watched, he leaned down and kissed her. Not a friendly peck, but the kiss of lovers. My stomach lurched. Who is he? Dr. Andrew Phillips, Mike said quietly. Orthopedic surgeon. Worked with athletes. Probably met through her job. The room seemed to tilt sideways. All of Tessa's accusations about my absence, her sudden departure, they took on a different meaning now. There's more, Mike continued reluctantly. They've been seen together around town. Restaurants, hotel bars. Always professional in public, but he trailed off, the implication clear. I pushed the phone back toward him, unable to look any longer. Does everyone know except me? No, man. I only found out because of the security footage. But I had to tell you. I drained my drink, the burn in my throat, nothing compared to the fire in my chest. So, while I was protecting government networks, she was... I couldn't finish the sentence. What are you going to do? Mike asked. It was a good question. The part of me that had spent years hunting vulnerabilities wanted revenge. Expose them both, fight for full custody, destroy her reputation the way she destroyed our family. But another part of me, the father who'd held Shane and Tanya just days ago, knew better. A vicious custody battle would only hurt my children more. I'm going to be smart about this, I said finally, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. I need evidence, documentation, and I need to make sure the kids are protected. Mike nodded approvingly. Tactical approach. Smart. Can you help me? I asked. Nothing illegal, but I need to know what I'm dealing with. Already on it, he said. We're friends for. As we left the bar, I felt a strange sense of clarity cutting through the pain. The enemy was no longer invisible, the battlefield no longer undefined. For years, I'd protected nations from invisible threats. Now I would channel that same focus into protecting what mattered most, my relationship with my children. I texted Tessa from the parking lot. We need to talk. About everything, including Andrew. Her response came within seconds. How did you find out? No denial. No explanation. Just confirmation of the betrayal that had been happening right under my nose while I was saving the world from behind a computer screen. The law office felt too small, too warm. I sat across from Tessa and her attorney, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s who hadn't smiled once since introductions. My own lawyer, Daniel, remained calm beside me, reviewing the proposed settlement terms. This custody arrangement is unacceptable, Daniel stated firmly. Mr. Cooper wants equal time with his children. Tessa's attorney leaned forward. Given Mr. Cooper's extensive travel and unpredictable work hours, we believe our proposed arrangement is generous. I met Tessa's eyes directly. I've restructured my entire work schedule. No more emergency travel. Remote consulting only. The kids need their father. Convenient timing. Tessa murmured, looking away. Mrs. Cooper, Daniel interjected. Let me be clear about our position. Either we reach a fair custody agreement, or we discuss the impact of infidelity on property division and alimony considerations in court. The room fell silent. Tessa's lawyer whispered something to her, and she paled slightly. "I want to speak with Warren alone," Tessa announced suddenly. Both lawyers protested, but ultimately left us in the conference room. Once alone, Tessa's composure cracked. "You'd use Andrew against me? To take my children?" "I don't want to take them from you," I replied evenly. "I want to remain in their lives equally. Despite what you did, you're still their mother." She looked down at her hands. "He's left Hartford. Took a position in Chicago." "I don't care where he is, Tessa. That was never about him." "Then what is this about?" "Punishment. It's about Shane and Tanya," I said firmly. "About not losing 3 years of bedtime stories and soccer games and dance recitals because you decided I didn't deserve to be their father anymore." Tears welled in her eyes. "I never said that. Actions speak louder than words." She took a deep breath. "Shared custody. Week on, week off. But I keep the house. They need stability." "Agreed, with one addition. Family therapy. All 4 of us. The kids need to understand what's happening without blaming themselves." Tessa looked surprised, then nodded slowly. "That's actually a good idea." We called the lawyers back in. As they formalized our agreement, I felt the first moment of relief since finding Tessa's note. My career would never again take precedence over those 2 little lives that depended on me. I had failed as a husband, but I wouldn't fail as a father. That much I promised myself as I signed my name to the divorce papers, ending 7 years of marriage, but beginning a new chapter of parenthood. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I was drowning, not in work. I kept my promise about boundaries there, but in the emptiness of my apartment during the weeks without the kids. My phone buzzed with a text from Mike. "You still alive in there?" Week 3 of radio silence. I hadn't meant to isolate myself, but facing friends meant questions, pity, judgment. Easier to retreat into solitude when the kids weren't with me. The knock on my door was unexpected. Mike stood in the hallway, holding a 6-pack and looking concerned. "Intervention time," he announced, pushing past me. He surveyed the apartment. Takeout containers, unwashed dishes, clothes strewn about. "Jesus, Warren. I wasn't expecting company," I muttered defensively. "Clearly." He cleared a spot on the couch. "Talk to me." "Nothing to talk about. I'm fine." "Yeah, you look it." Mike's sarcasm was tinged with genuine worry. "When did you last leave this place? Besides picking up the kids?" I couldn't remember. Work from home made it too easy to become a hermit. "The divorce was 6 months ago," Mike continued. "You need to start living again." "For what?" I demanded. "I spend half my time with my kids, the other half working and waiting for them to come back. What else matters?" Mike leaned forward. "You matter, man. The Warren Cooper I know doesn't give up." "I haven't given up," I retorted. "I've prioritized. My kids come first now." "And that's great," he agreed. "But they need a healthy father, not whatever this is." His words hit harder than expected. Was I really setting the example I wanted Shane and Tanya to see? "I talked to Sarah at the FBI Cyber Division," Mike continued. "They're looking for consultants on a major case. Short-term contract, highly classified. Right up your alley." I hesitated. "I promised no travel. It's here in Hartford. You'd work at the field office during your off weeks with the kids." For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of professional interest. "What's the case?" Mike smiled, knowing he'd hooked me. "She'll brief you herself. Interviews Monday at 10. After he left, I surveyed my apartment through new eyes. This wasn't a home my children would be proud to visit. This wasn't the example of resilience I wanted to set. I spent the weekend cleaning, organizing, making the space livable again. By Sunday night, both the apartment and my mindset had undergone a transformation. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was rebuilding. Maybe Mike was right. Moving forward didn't mean forgetting my family or replacing what was lost. It meant creating a new life that honored what remained, my relationship with my children and my own sense of purpose. 18 months after the divorce, I barely recognized my life in the best possible way. The FBI consulting position had evolved into something unexpected. Leadership of a specialized cybersecurity task force focused on protecting critical infrastructure. "Mr. Cooper, the secretary is on line 1. My assistant announced as I reviewed code sequences on my monitor. This was my new normal, advising government officials on emerging threats, while maintaining the work-life balance I'd fought to establish. No overnight travel during my weeks with the kids. No missed school events. No regrets. "Dad, watch me." Shane called from the soccer field where I sat on the sidelines every Saturday morning, laptop nowhere in sight. At 7, he'd grown taller, more confident, a budding athlete with his mother's grace and my stubbornness. Tanya, now 5, had appointed herself my cooking helper during our weeks together. Our kitchen adventures usually ended in disaster, but her giggles made the mess worthwhile. The co-parenting relationship with Tessa had evolved into something civil, occasionally even friendly. She'd married Andrew 6 months ago, following him to Chicago. The kids spent holidays and summers with them, while maintaining their regular schedule with me in Hartford. My breakthrough moment came unexpectedly during a cybersecurity conference in Boston. I've been invited to speak about vulnerability prediction models, work that had started as my personal project during those lonely post-divorce nights. "Your algorithm is revolutionary," commented Dr. Eliza Chun, director of MIT's Advanced Computing Security Lab, after my presentation. "Have you considered commercialization?" I hadn't, but her question planted a seed. Within weeks, I'd partnered with 2 former FBI colleagues to develop a startup based on my predictive security model. We worked nights and weekends, careful not to disrupt my time with the children. 6 months of development led to our first enterprise-level test deployment. The results exceeded even our most optimistic projections, identifying vulnerabilities that traditional systems missed entirely. Venture capital offers followed almost immediately. Our choice, a firm that valued sustainable growth over quick profits, allowed us to maintain control while scaling rapidly. On the day we signed our series of funding agreement, I video called Shane and Tanya from the office. "Daddy did good business today," I explained simply. "Does that mean ice cream?" Shane asked pragmatically. I laughed. "Absolutely. Double scoops when I pick you up tomorrow." That night, I walked around the quiet house that had once felt so empty. Photos of the kids cover the walls, not just posed portraits, but captured moments of our life together. Soccer games, science projects, pillow fort construction. For the first time in years, I felt genuine pride, not just in my professional achievements, but in rebuilding a life centered on what truly mattered. The path hadn't been easy, but it had led somewhere worth being. Little did I know that the true test still awaited me, just around the corner. "Gentlemen, this offer is unprecedented for a company at your stage," said Michael Denning, CEO of CyberShield, the largest security firm in the country. $200 million, with retention packages for all 3 founders. 3 years after my divorce, I sat in a Manhattan conference room with my partners, listening to an acquisition offer that would change our lives. Our security prediction algorithm had proven so effective that industry giants were now competing to buy us. "We need time to consider," I replied, maintaining a calm I didn't entirely feel. Inside, my mind raced with possibilities. Financial security for my children, research opportunities, and personal vindication after the professional setbacks following my Airbnb layoff years ago. Later that evening, I called my ex-wife. "Tessa, I wanted you to hear this from me first," I explained. "There's an acquisition offer that I'm likely accepting. It's substantial." She was quiet for a moment. "That's wonderful, Warren. You've worked hard for this." "Thanks," I said, surprised by her genuine tone. "It won't change anything with the kids. I'm staying in Hartford." "They'll be proud when they're old enough to understand," she said. "They already adore you." The conversation left me thoughtful. 3 years ago, such news would have been met with resentment or accusations about my priorities. We both grown. 1 week later, we signed the acquisition papers. The news made the Wall Street Journal, with our predictive security system hailed as revolutionary technology that could reshape the industry. That weekend, I took Shane and Tanya camping, something the old workaholic Warren would never have attempted. As they roasted marshmallows and giggled about ghost stories, I realized success meant something entirely different now. The following month brought an unexpected invitation: CyberShield's annual black tie gala, celebrating industry innovation. As a newly acquired company, our attendance was expected. "Bring your partners, families, whoever you like," the email specified. "This is our premier networking event of the year." I hesitated. These corporate functions had once been central to my identity. Now they seemed secondary to soccer games and science fairs. Still, this represented the culmination of years of work. I RSVP'd yes, then called my sister to watch the kids that weekend. What I couldn't know then was that this gala would become more than a professional milestone. It would become the night that brought my past and present into direct collision, with consequences I never could have anticipated. The Cyber Shield Gala transformed the grand ballroom of New York's Plaza Hotel into a temple of technological opulence. Executives in bespoke suits mingled with government officials and security experts. As a newly acquired founder, I found myself the center of unexpected attention. Warren Cooper, announced the CEO during his speech, whose predictive security algorithm has revolutionized threat detection. "Stand up, Warren." Applause erupted as I rose briefly, nodding in acknowledgement. The validation felt good, but strangely hollow compared to Shane's beaming face when he scored his first goal, or Tanya's pride when she mastered riding her bike without training wheels. "Your algorithm is brilliantly constructed," commented a senior Pentagon official, shaking my hand. "We've been implementing similar concepts, but your execution is superior." As I was responding, movement across the ballroom caught my eye. A woman in an emerald dress, her back to me, with familiar chestnut hair, styled elegantly. My heart stuttered. "Excuse me," I mumbled to the official, moving instinctively toward her. She turned before I reached her, and our eyes locked across the crowded room. "Tessa, here, in New York." The shock on her face mirrored my own. "Warren," she whispered as I approached. "What are you doing here?" "My company was acquired by Cyber Shield," I explained. "What about you?" "Andrew is receiving an innovation award for his surgical technique," she replied, glancing around nervously. "He's speaking with colleagues." Up close, I noticed subtle changes, a few strands of silver in her hair, fine lines around her eyes. But what struck me most was her expression as she took in my appearance, my confidence, my success. Her eyes welled with unexpected tears. "I'm sorry," she said, blinking rapidly. "This is ridiculous." "What's wrong?" I asked, genuinely concerned. "Nothing," she insisted, dabbing her eyes. "It's just, you look different. Happier. More present." "I am," I confirmed. It took losing everything to understand what matters. A waiter passed with champagne. I took 2 glasses, handing one to her. "To growth," I offered. She hesitated, then clinked her glass against mine. "To growth." We found a quiet corner away from the crowd, exchanging updates about the children, our careers. The bitterness that had once defined our interactions had dissolved, replaced by something I hadn't expected: mutual respect. "I always believed in your potential," she admitted after her second champagne. "I just couldn't compete with your work." "You shouldn't have had to," I acknowledged. "I failed to balance what mattered." She studied me, tears threatening again. "I'm sorry I couldn't wait for you to figure that out." "Don't be," I said honestly. "We're both better for the journey." When Andrew appeared looking for her, I shook his hand without resentment. The man who had once represented my greatest failure now seemed simply a chapter in our complicated history. As I watched them walk away, I realized I'd crossed an invisible threshold. The past no longer held power over my future. Exactly 3 years after Tessa left, I sat in my Hartford home office reviewing quarterly projections for our division at Cyber Shield. The acquisition had exceeded expectations, our security model now protecting critical infrastructure nationwide. My phone buzzed with a text from Shane's soccer coach. "Big championship game Saturday. Shane says you're bringing orange slices." I smiled, adding it to my calendar immediately. These were the commitments I never missed now. A notification appeared on my screen: "Email from Tessa with proposal," in the subject line. Curious, I opened it. "Warren, Andrew has accepted a position with Johns Hopkins. We're relocating to Baltimore next month. Rather than disrupt the children with constant travel, I propose modifying our custody arrangement. Summer and winter breaks with me, school year with you. Stability would benefit them both. Let me know your thoughts." I stared at the screen, emotions swirling. More time with my children, a vote of confidence in my parenting, and an acknowledgement that I'd become the stable foundation they needed. I called her immediately. "Are you sure about this?" "I've watched how you've transformed," Tessa said quietly. "That night at the gala made me realize how much you've grown. The kids need that consistency." What about you? I asked. You'd see them less. I'd miss them terribly, she admitted. But Andrew's position is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And they'd have better schools, greater stability with you. After discussing logistics, I paused. Tessa, thank you for seeing who I've become, not just who I was. We both needed to grow, she replied. Maybe separately, but still forward. The following weekend, I took the kids hiking, their favorite weekend activity. At the summit, while they devoured trail mix, I explained the potential new arrangement. So we'd live with you most of the time? Shane asked, processing the information. Yes, but with long vacations with Mom and Andrew. What do you think? Tanya leaned against me. I like being at her house. My friends are here. Shane nodded agreement. Mom said it was our choice. It is, I confirmed, touched by Tessa's consideration. That evening, after the kids were asleep, I sat on the back deck staring at the stars. 3 years ago, I'd been broken, mourning the loss of my family. Now I'd been entrusted with their care in a way I'd never expected. The journey had been painful, transformative, necessary. I'd lost a wife, but found myself in the process, becoming the father my children deserved and the man I'd always had potential to be. As I typed my agreement to Tessa's proposal, I felt a profound sense of completion. Not because our story had a fairy tale ending, but because it had the right ending. One where growth prevailed over bitterness, and our children would benefit from the best of both their imperfect, evolving parents. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to discover what truly matters. I'd taken the long way to that lesson, but I'd never forget it again.